Catch an eye?
No.
There's a beautiful little bird right there. Hello, little birdie. How you doing? Oh, it's off. And oh my gosh!
Just, just chilling. That's
We
a,
have to go
that's a big freaking alligator.
now.
All right.
Catch an eye?
Yeah, we knew there were alligators there. We had been there before,
There's a
but
beautiful little bird.
everyone
right
appreciate this. I'm told
Hello, little birdie.
that you can measure the length of an alligator
And oh my gosh!
in terms of feet. If you measure the distance of the nostrils to the eyes, or the eyes to the something. The alligator was big. Look at this thing. Look at its nostrils. Look at its nostril right there. That little black dot that just opened up. Just a little prehistoric dinosaur.
We have to go.
Chilling. Oh, good evening, everybody. It's Sunday night. Okay, hold on. I'm just going to make sure I'm perfectly centered. Clock in the back is the right time. Do I look? Okay, I don't look quite as haggard as I felt on Friday. I say like the weight of the world is giving me the white stripe of hair. I think the weight of the world is giving me bags under the eyes and making me tired and cranky. Okay, I was going to start with something that was not something that was not upsetting, not irritating. This place is called the Arthur Marshall Lokahatchee Reserve, or Loxahatchee. I don't know how people pronounce it. It's amazing. They've got a little boardwalk that goes through the forest. They've got these tall trees, which you don't see very many of in Florida, with these like weeping sort of, looks like cotton, branched on the branches, just drooping down. It flows with the wind. It feels like you're in Georgia or like a southern state, which I guess Florida is. Then you go down to that canal that you just saw, which separates the developed Florida from the Everglades. There's a little like 2-story staircase you go up, and it's flat like the African savanna, or savanna is the word I'm looking for 200 kilometers. That's like 130 of those Freedom Eagle Liberty thingy things. It's just amazing. There's alligators at that place all the time. You always have to watch out for them. There was the one-eyed alligator there before. Spanish moss. I don't know if it's Spanish moss. But let me see here. Ekaro says, Viva, the weight of the world is blank. Also, what's up, man? I wanted to start with something totally flipped. I was going to start, well, you know what? I have it on the backdrop here. We'll go with the other. I was torn between Viva and the goat or the alligator. Let me see here. Viva, here we go. Viva and the goat. Yesterday, in an attempt to distract from the woes of the world, we went back to Strawberry Girl's U-Pick, which is a wonderful picking farm thing. They have a petting zoo, and I was making friends with the locals. Viva and the goat.
Look at this.
Yep.
Hello, goat.
Look at that cute little thing.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, and then
Eat my finger.
There you go.
Can you eat my finger?
Then I spent the rest of the day thinking I had just contracted E. coli or something from the lettuce that I put in my mouth because it was lettuce destined for farm animals and not for human consumption. Oh. Viva, you visit goats to shed the weight of the world. Yes, I won't tell you what else I do to shed the weight of the world. It involves rubbing the velvety inside of their nostrils, which are wonderfully smooth and beautiful. All right, good. Good evening, everybody. It's going to be an amazing show. There's going to be actually only law tonight, I think. It's going to be law, because I think when the world is falling apart, being torn apart at the seams, we can all agree on at least a few things. Politicians are the scum of the earth. Lawyers are the scum of the earth. And tonight we're going to have a good crossover between all of them. Standard disclaimers: no medical advice, no election fortification advice, no legal advice. These wonderful things here that you see. Cheryl Gage, $5 super chat. Because I have ad blocker, YouTube is kicking me off the platform in a week unless I buy premium. Any thoughts, Viva? Here's my thought. Let me screen grab that and think about it some more. They're gonna ban people who have ad. I don't even know what the policy would be. But all that to say, Cheryl, thank you for the support. Bear in mind, YouTube takes 30% of that. If you want to support and feel good about the support, you should go to vivabarneslaw.locals.com Or alternatively, actually, how do I always forget to plug my own merch, our own merch? You could support the channel by getting some merch. Check this out. Look at this. Ooh, Wanted for President. This is on the menu tonight, people. A week of madness in the Trump trial from New York to New York, because there's 2 of them there. No, actually, there's only one going on in New York now. To D.C., to Georgia. Oh, my goodness. We're going to talk about it. But if you want to support the channel and you want to wear some awesome merch, go to vivafry.com. Ton of stuff there. VivaBarnesLaw.locals.com and on Rumble, where they have the equivalent of super chats called Rumble Rants, and Rumble takes 20% of that ordinarily, exceptionally for the rest of the year, they're going to take 0% of that, but in 2024, they're going to go back to the 20%. So those are the places you can do this. Okay. I'm reading some of the chat there. We are live on all platforms, YouTube, Rumble, and VivaBarnesLaw.locals.com, where after the show, we end and we take answer all questions there. We got the tips in Viva Barnes Law, so we answer all of those questions at $5 and more. The other thing that I forgot to mention. Oh, yeah, that's right. We're going to end on YouTube in about, 24 minutes. Take it over to Rumble, where we have the party. End on Rumble, have the after show on VivaBarnesLaw.locals.com. Okay, we're going to go from I'm not talking about the Matthew Perry passing. I'm going to talk about it a little bit, but there's no political angle to it. It's just to say the man had a life of addiction, which takes its toll on the body. The man had a social media presence and made social media posts, which everyone's going to go back to now and say, was it this? Was it that? Was it a contributing factor between a life of abuse on his body through drugs and alcohol, combined with the shirt that he was wearing not long ago, posting to social media? My major takeaway from all of this is, first of all, we're so far out of the my Sharona Cyrus Schmendrick, for those who have been around the channel for long enough. We're 3-4 years out now. People are going to continue dying. It's the world in which we live. There are stats. I talked to Dr. Drew about it. I'm not posting that stream to YouTube for obvious reasons. I'm just not having that argument with YouTube ever again. There's stats, undeniable stats. And there will be people just passing as they get older. My reflections on this is he was 54 years old. I mean, when you're a kid, that's old. 55, that's old. You're halfway. My goodness, 44 years old, 54 years old is just around the corner. It's crazy. And it's it's life. It's fleeting. And you want to be here and you want to do your best while you're here. You want to live as long as you can without compromising your morals, where a long life of cowardice is worthless. A long life of cowardice is more torturous than a life cut short by, living up to your beliefs, living up to your principles. That movie Magnolia, P.T. Anderson, the guy on his deathbed at the end, he's saying life is not long, life is not short, life is long. Life is long when you live with regret, shame, and live with the wrong decisions. So Matthew Perry passed away. It's terrible. The internet does its thing. I've never been into public displays of thoughts and prayers. If you know the person personally, you'd reach out to their family. Doing it on social media has always felt a little weird to me. Dude passed away. And the articles, make it sound like he drowned in a hot tub. Yep. Drowned in a hot tub after suffering cardiac arrest. So the framing is all there. Matthew Perry tragically drowned in a hot tub. People say, was it drug related? Did he relapse? Did he pass out and then drown? No, apparently it was cardiac arrest leading to drowning in a hot tub. Then my mother, who you all know is neurotic, but according to Dr. Drew, neurotic but right, says don't stay out of hot tubs. There's no point going into hot tubs. They increase your blood pressure, etc., etc. So that's that. But now the Matthew Perry raises some interesting questions in terms of, what we're noticing. Statistics. Increases in all-cause mortality of a certain age bracket that can't be explained through ordinary channels, but I won't get there. But I will bring up Nilly KM. Nilly Kaplan from Ottawa, people. If you haven't seen her, she's blocked me on Twitter a long time ago. She blocked me before I even knew who she was. She's not a very pleasant person from what her social media persona is. A mask tyrant, some have called her. A practicing physician, by the looks of it, who you may have known because This is a woman who is a mask fascist or a maschist, sadomasochist fascist, mask fascist, whatever. A jab promoter like it's nobody's business, who has been on the show recently through her tweets that I get from my moles, because she got COVID twice in a month, despite being vaxxed to the max. Despite wearing a mask wherever she goes, she got COVID not once, but twice in a month. The second time, she was complaining that the symptoms were more severe than the first. And that was recently. And then even more recently, coming out of Rowan the Stallion, he's got his moles, because we're all collectively blocked by this person. After having complained about having gotten COVID twice in a month, posts this tweet: Friday reminder that everyone in Ontario is eligible as of next week for a flu shot and the COVID XBB.1.5. Say it in Jimmy Fallon's voice. Depending on the date of your last booster and infection. Also, mask up, hashtag mask up indoors. It's not a joke, by the way. It's not a parody. Like, it's not a parody. It's a mentally unwell person. I'm not a doctor. I'm not diagnosing anyone in any formal sense, just colloquial observations. Hashtag COVID-19 infections are severely high in our community. And she's showing that she got the booster. And my question to this post was, is it even advisable? I don't know if that picture is an old picture and she's just, doing her public service reminder. What that public service is questionable. Are you even supposed to get jabbed, boosted, whatever it's called, within such short proximity of not one but two COVID infections? Now, I'm not a doctor and I'm not giving medical advice. I'm just asking questions that a neurotic individual with thanatophobia, for anybody who doesn't know what that is, it's an acute fear of death. I'm just asking the obvious questions. I don't want to die. I'm not sure that I'd want to live forever. I don't want to live a long life of cowardice and compromised principles, but I don't want to make a stupid mistake and cut my life short. Are you even supposed to get boosted after not one but two infections within short proximity? Within short proximity. Who the hell knows? That was the lighthearted part of the show, to start with that. And before I get to some of the crumble rants and super chats, before Barnes comes in. Speaking of leading a healthy life, I want to make the good decisions and I want to make the right decisions. I make a lot of good ones and I make a lot of right ones. Exercise, vitamin D. I'm not really good at not being stressed out, but that I've been told by many people is just hardwired into my body. But healthy diet I have, with a few exceptions of, I like red meat, but I'm not even sure that the science is settled on that anymore. Healthy habits, fieldofgreens.com, powdered greens. Now, everybody knows or should know, you're supposed to have between 5 and 7 servings of raw fruits and vegetables a day. Why? Roughage, fibers, antioxidants, nutrients, all of the good stuff. Most people don't have that at all. Most people eat foods that are all brown. If you've ever been to England, it's like the color of the food is brown. Most people do not have colored fruits and they don't have a colorful diet. And a colorful diet is a sign of a healthy diet. You get your raw fruits and vegetables in. And if you don't, and even if you do, fieldofgreens.com, it's desiccated greens, powdered, pulverized greens, fruits and vegetables with all of the antioxidants. 1 spoonful twice a day is 1 spoonful is 1 serving of fruits and vegetables. So you do that twice a day. You're getting 2 servings of fruits and vegetables, USDA organic approved. I spent time on the phone with the doctor of the company to make sure I understood everything. It's good. It tastes good. And it's a healthy habit to not sucking down a disgusting chemical-filled diet beverage as though that's any healthier. 1 spoonful in water twice a day is 2 servings of raw fruits and vegetables a day and all the good stuff, antioxidants, nutrients, etc. Go to fieldofgreens.com. It will bring you to Brickhouse Nutrition. Promo code VIVA for 15% off your first order. The link is in the description. Oh my goodness, I didn't send Barnes the link tonight. I knew I forgot something. Wait a minute, maybe I did. I'm not sure if I did. I'll do it again just in case. Barnes link. Here it is. I thought I might have been forgetting something. The link is in the description. Booyah. Now, I was going to bring this up. Could you be feeling the weight of the world on your shoulders and have discovered that your path you have taken is the wrong way? No. Categorical no. The path. It depends what you mean by the path. What I'm doing, where I'm doing it, no. The way in which I'm doing it, maybe. Things that I'm doing along the... I'm always open for improvement, but that the path I have taken is the wrong way. I don't think so. Ask me that in a year or two. No, I could have answered that definitively when it came to the practice of law, as was my sentiment. Every day was not better than the last. There was not one day where I loved it more than the day before, with the exception maybe of when I left the big firm and started on my own. I would be doing this regardless. Making sense of the world, trying to make sense of it to myself, and hopefully making sense of it to other people as well. Thank you, IT, for the super chat. Assuming you mean this world, the answer is just on the high side of 13 times 10 to the power of 24 pounds, not providing the answer in kilograms. Pashamora, I'm not going to be able to get to that answer. 13 times 10 is 1,300 to the power of 24. Maybe that's the weight of the Earth. Dude, what is that? Okay, now I got to know what this is. I'm going to screen grab this. If you got IT laughing at you, now I feel stupid that I don't get it. All right, I'm not your buddy guy, says Barnes for Attorney General would fix a lot of the problem. All right, now before Barnes gets here, or until Barnes gets here, I wanted to start... oh no, we're going to have a good laugh. We're going to have a good laugh. Going to avoid the politics side of this thing. We're going to go to Canada for a bit, everybody. Mark Garrettson is another man who I've been giving something of a hard time to on the Twitterverse. Am I giving you a hard time? He put out a poll yesterday. I didn't know he was doing a highly scientific test. He put out a poll on Twitter, is where I saw it, that says, oh, polling. Do you support Pierre Poilievre? That's the conservative leader in Canada of the Conservative Party, the leader of the Conservative Party in Canada. Do you support Pierre Poilievre importing MAGA politics into Canada? Now, ladies and gentlemen out there, for those of you who aren't familiar with crappy argumentation tactics or debate tactics, this is what we call loading the question. Do you support Pierre Poilievre importing MAGA politics into Canada? What in the name of sweet holy hell does that even mean? But set that aside. He asked the poll on Twitter, and he got lambasted, wamboozled. I mean, it didn't help that he had a number of conservative accounts. I do not consider myself to be conservative. I shared the tweet. I know roughly how the audience that we have amassed here is going to vote on that tweet, if only because it's a stupid ass question and it deserves mockery at the public level of the highest order. 20,000 votes on Twitter, and it was 90% said yes. Mark puts out and says, look at this. I asked the identical question on Threads versus Twitter. On Threads, it was 96% no. And on Twitter, it was 90% yes. And I said, because I have half of a brain in my head, Mark, how many people voted on... You'll notice, by the way, in the picture, it acutely cuts off right below the no. It would have said 20,000 votes. I don't know how it works on Threads because I'm not on Threads. And I'm not downloading that app. Oh my goodness. I just said, so how many votes did you get on Threads? Because I guarantee you, I said, I suspect it's 200 votes. Ladies and gentlemen, I've got my moles in there. 293 votes he had on Threads versus 20,000 on Twitter. It's the most epic self-own you can possibly imagine. And it goes to show you, remember when they said Twitter was dead and Threads is going to be the wave of the future? The best this guy could get on Threads is 293 votes on his tweet and gets 20,000 on Twitter. I mean, I said that's his friends, family, the Liberal Party, and maybe a couple of staffers. And that's his vote. Yeah, I bet you 96% of them would say no to that question. I don't want his MAGA politics in here. Oh, my goodness. Oh, the weight of the earth, don't put it on your shoulders. Okay, good. I got it. What about if you don't... Pasha, you got to factor in the spiritual weight of the world. All right, so anyways, on the menu tonight, people. Share the link around also, by the way. But on the menu for tonight, well, Barnes is going to tell us what's on the menu for the night. I see him in the backdrop. Let me know when you're ready, Robert. And let me see if I've got... is the Rumble... No Rumble rants to read as of yet. Let me refresh this page here. And let me pause my face. Okay, there we go. Robert, sir, he looks like he's ready. I'm bringing you in. 3, 2, 1. Sir, how goes the battle?
Good.
Okay, now hold on a second. I am seeing 2 new... Okay, Wesley Snipes on the back. That's not new. What is over your shoulder to the book on that side?
It's Soccernomics. So it's a book we'll be discussing at Sports Picks, where we do political predictions, sports predictions, other predictions. So having fun so far this year, profitable in all the major sports. Though we don't have we may put up odds on the new sport, odds that Viva uses his son as bait to catch that alligator.
I told him, like, we're getting away from the alligator because I've seen videos where they jump out of the water basically the length of their body, but someone
And it seemed to be waiting for you. It was just sitting there.
It was like it opened one eye, it looked up, and then it closed it. But someone rightly pointed out they can only jump that far out of the water in deeper water where they can use their body for the projectile. So, yeah, we were safe, but I wasn't messing around.
Did you show the little guy, or did you just say time to go?
Oh no, he saw. We were looking at it afterwards for a little bit and just staying below the rails. It was just chilling. It was taken in the sun, but I think it was a good 10-footer. But I wanted to feed it, but you're really not allowed feeding them. I don't want it to get killed, so we left it alone. Dude, Mikey, I told you my mother is a neurotic woman. I knew about that story. That she's like, David, don't go near the water with your dogs or your kids. I don't know how anybody can't see the alligator if they're not looking for it, because they're not. I mean, they're stealthy for animals, but you can see their nose in shallow water. You can see them coming. You just have to be paying much attention. Robert, what's on the menu for tonight?
First up, Trump. That was the most popular topic on the locals board tonight. Covering the contempt and when the courts are state actors, and also a copyright concerning Trump pending before the Supreme Court. Owen Shroyer, solitary confinement, and a inmate related lawsuit about lockdowns in Wisconsin. Supreme Court, when can they ban you from their social media pages? That Supreme Court's finally taken that up. In fact, they're going to hear oral arguments on Halloween itself. Maybe that's apropos given some of our politicians. The question about if you dressed up as John Fetterman, does that, which character does that count as Frankenstein? We watched the Young Frankenstein this week at on the board. Or does it count as what's his name, that Uncle Fester from?
You could go for a 3-4. Or does it count as his body double, because a lot of people think that's
right,
not John Fetterman.
As the original Fetterman, the bank aiding. What happens when banks get caught aiding Ponzi schemes? How often does that happen? On trial this week, SBF concerning FTX. He took the stand on Friday, and a Baltimore prosecutor that the Democrats and the media aren't talking about a whole lot, but it's the Freddie Gray prosecutor, goes on federal trial. More evidence concerning Biden. When you just call everything a loan, SBF was giving us lessons on that on Friday. Apparently, that's also going to be the Joe Biden defense. Reggaeton, the entire basis of an entire musical genre, is subject to a current copyright suit of someone who claims to own all of reggaeton. I think that's how you pronounce it. I have no idea. Magic mushrooms in court. When do the statute of limitations apply? What kind of injury do you have to know about? 2 bonus topics for the after party at locals. Benzene might be in your dry shampoo. And the big debate about trans in kids' sports before the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, probably heading for the Supreme Court, given the judges on the draw. And then there's a bonus off the top. CBS reporter Catherine Herridge, the government's trying to get her sources.
I guess we have to start with Trump because it's the biggest news of the week. Do we start with? We'll start with the New York. What did he get? The New York, not contempt. What was he?
Yeah, that's what it was. The judge issued more contempt fines and more threats.
So he issued the first fine, $5,000. I forget what the statement was for that.
Solely because his campaign still had a prior statement on it that was not even issued after his gag order.
That they didn't delete after they deleted it from the Truth, but not for, it was reposted somewhere else. They didn't delete it. It's $5,000, just like that. Poof. $10,000 because it's got to go in escalating gradation of sanctions because he allegedly made a statement to an AP reporter or somewhere out in the hallway about what do you say? The person sitting next to the judge is very biased. The person sitting next to the judge is very biased, and the judge thinks that he was talking about the clerk, and he said, "You can't talk about my clerk anymore because the world cannot know that she's Chuck Schumer's girlfriend." # joking, but that she was posting pics with Chuck Schumer. and then brings him in. Robert, I've been following the tweets. I've been following Gouveia. We talked about it on Friday. Like, from what I understand, the judge asked Trump to testify or compelled him to testify to explain himself. Explain how that's, for people who don't understand how that's even possible. How does the judge compel him to testify in a civil proceeding about contempt?
As different forms of contempt. Yeah, is in essence what is you see what some of us have known for a while, which is that the most often state official to abuse their power is not in the executive branch, it's not in the legislative branch, it's in the judicial branch. It's what Hamilton and Madison got wrong during the Federalist anti-Federalist debate. The anti-Federalists said you can't trust this kind of limited class of people with this amount of power that you're calling a judiciary. They will inevitably and inescapably abuse that power. And because at heart there was a strong elitist streak in a lot of the so-called founders, the real founders are the people who staffed the fields and staffed the economic engine and staffed the sanctions and the political protests and the ballot boxes, not just a few folks in powdered wigs sitting around a hall. But for those that still fancy that the only founding fathers can be a bunch of elite guys, not the people who actually made the revolution possible. They got a lot of stuff wrong, and one of the things they got wrong was they trusted more their fellow elite class than they trusted the people who actually made the revolution successful. And one example of this was this way too much confidence that the Federalists had in the judicial branch. The anti-Federalists accurately forecast this branch will abuse the power the most. And one of the excuses that Hamilton and Madison and others used was, don't worry, the judicial branch doesn't have enforcement power. Don't worry, the judicial branch doesn't have the power of the purse or the power of the sword. Yes, they do. They just took it for themselves. What were you going to do to stop them from doing it? Now they seize people's bank accounts. Now they seize people's property. Now they have marshals and bailiffs at their disposal. They now have the power of the sword. They now have the power of the purse. So, and what's going to stop them when they declare that they unilaterally get to decide what's legal and constitutional about themselves? This judge is the personification of the problems with giving the judicial branch power to begin with in any great consequence. Now, to his credit, Madison was for jury trials. He was for restricting judicial power with the Bill of Rights later on and so forth. But this was inherent to putting any elite body and saying, we're going to let you determine what the law is. We're going to let you determine what the Constitution says. And we're going to give you the tools and the tickets to seize power of the purse and of property and of the sword, which is what they've done. This judge is just abusing all his power. He is a state actor like everyone else. He can't restrain. Could a congressman come up and say, I hereby ban you from talking about my staff? That would be struck down as unconstitutional by these same courts tomorrow. Could the president come out and say, you can't talk about my staff? No, he'd be struck down as unconstitutional tomorrow. And yet a judge is doing it, and there's no consequence. There's no cry out from the courts of appeals in New York or from the federal courts in New York. This is a judge constantly, consistently violating the federally constitutionally protected civil rights of President Trump in order to injudiciously interfere with an election and obstruct an honest and transparent election. This is a corrupt judge who, if we had an honest legal system, he would be the one behind bars, not President Trump. He does not have the power to order Trump to testify. He does not have the constitutional power to order any fines against Trump. He didn't have the constitutional power to do the gag order. There's no constitutional basis for a gag order. His staff is free reign. They are public officials. You corrupt hack of a judge don't get to hide their corruption from the world. This is an ongoing disgrace that is a damnation of our judicial system, and so many lawyers are not saying boo about it.
I'll bring it up. I know I've played it before. I'll just play this one part again because it's beautiful to listen to.
I had one last thing to say about tools. A lot of what I do involves motions. These summary judgment motions I mentioned. And all right, am I following the law or am I making law? Okay, I'm following law. I'm an impartial referee, but it's hard to factor out my own emotions. And I have tools somebody can say,
That's it. It's hard for me to factor out my own emotions, and I have tools. Now, Robert, he compels Trump to testify, say, what was the meaning of that? You violated the court order talking about a member of my staff when you said someone next to me is extremely biased. Trump says, I'm talking about Michael Cohen, who was on the stand today, embarrassing himself and basically undoing the prosecution's case. And Engoron says, I don't believe you, $10,000. Now, you know, he talked about the tools that he has, summary judgments, which he issued in this case. And there was a part of his speech where he says, what I'm going to say now is very controversial. Juries get it wrong a lot, and I can bypass a jury with a judgment notwithstanding a verdict. I was listening to mainstream media report on the Trump New York case, and they're saying, well, Trump's already been found guilty of fraud. Now they're just determining, you know, the amount, the level of guilt. And I'm like, they've successfully Alex Jones them. I said they were going to do it. Now the media narrative is he's already guilty because this judge said summary judgment guilty on one count of the fraud. Now I've sanctioned him $5,000, $10,000, which they're going to appeal. And the next sanction's got to be even more. Where does it end, and what can be done?
I mean, the question is, how embarrassing does it have to get for our courts to finally step in? Are they just going to end even the appearance and the image of constitutional democracy? Does it have to completely collapse? Do they have to have 75 million people in the streets before they go, oh, golly gee, maybe I should have done something instead of gone to my third cocktail party in the summer in the Hamptons, Justice Roberts? I mean, it's embarrassing. It is embarrassing. But the judiciary is so part of a professional class that is so prejudiced, so bigoted, and so embubbled that they don't understand this. They do not understand that the world looks at this as a joke. The world looks at this as an embarrassment, that you have this lunatic old man presiding over President Trump in a trial he has no legal power to even preside over, on a case that is entirely frivolous and would have been thrown out in any other context, in any other circumstance, prohibiting Trump from speaking about the corruption of his own judicial staff, and now ordering summary fines against him and compelling him to speak, and then summarizing and then doing more summary fines against him because he loves the power. I mean, that's what that little presentation, why the Holocaust Center is inviting a whack job judge, is beyond me. It shows how many Holocaust centers have become a complete crock. The ADL has become a complete crock. They become an embarrassment to themselves. They do more damage to the issues related to the Holocaust than all the Holocaust deniers in the world combined. Nobody has done more damage to the Holocaust issues than the Anti-Defamation League. Nobody has defamed more the cause of issues related to anti-Semitism than the Anti-Defamation League.
Robert, it's totally off topic, and it'll be just a small parenthesis. They apparently removed Chaya Raichik, libs of TikTok, from their glossary of extremists. The ADL did. I don't know if you heard that.
Well, their members and board subscribers are realizing that while they've been in bed with these radical lefty nut jobs, that all of a sudden they wake up and realize the person they're in bed with is a Hamas champion. And they're like, oops, maybe we made a little mistake. A little late now, ain't it? And that's the problem, is how late are the courts going to be to salvage the reputation and credibility of the courts themselves? This problem has always existed. It's just usually they targeted politically marginal players. Now, it happened at the beginning of the country. With the founding of the country, you had judges weaponizing their power, going after their political opponents. It took the United States Senate impeaching the chief Supreme Court judge at the time to get them to back down and realize, okay, maybe we shouldn't just abuse our power so rampantly in front of everybody. That would be Supreme Court Justice Samuel Chase, who back then presided over trials, who was politically weaponizing the trial process, by the way, in New York, to go after his political opponents, just like this case. We're back here all over again. And the question is, will the judiciary step in, or will they be asleep at the wheel until the whole system crumbles? Will the Senate, credit to Senator J.D. Vance. Senator Vance said the D.C. judge should be impeached, that these gag orders are patently interference in an election, completely in excess of her power, and a violation of her oath of office, and she should be impeached. There needs to be more calls for that. Our new Speaker of the House that showed some promise, first thing he was doing was going up to kiss up to Sean Hannity and the deep state crowd, saying, don't worry, I didn't mean anything I said in opposed to funding to Ukraine. Well, rather than showing what a weak person he is as the new Speaker of the House, maybe he should take on these problems that are so dangerous that no one will believe in the credibility or integrity of the judicial branch or our constitutional government if this continues unabated. Because this is just everybody's abusing their power. Every judge can't wait to abuse their power. And they're abusing it in ways that the Supreme Court itself has said, you don't have this power of contempt to do what this judge is doing. You don't have this power of gag orders or prior restraint to do what these judges are doing. You don't have this power to misuse bail in this way. You don't have the power to misuse criminal cases in this way. And yet they're not, you don't have power to do selective prosecution in civil cases in this way. And yet they're allowing all of it to happen and they're not intervening. And they better intervene or the whole system's going to crumble right in front of us.
What was I going to say? I totally forgot what I was going to say. It doesn't matter. It'll come back in a second. $10,000 fine. He's going to appeal it. And they carry on with this sham of a trial. Do we go on to the one in D.C. or do we go to the copyright case? And do we?
That's the other Trump case. Now, this one is more interesting and this is the Supreme Court has taken up, but probably more likely because of the trademark connection than the Trump connection. And it basically, did you get a chance to review it?
Yeah. No,
go ahead. I'll let you give the
because I was familiar with the FUCT case. The other one there that had it was an Asian word that was problematic. What was the word that they were trying to trademark that they said was offensive? It had to do with it had something to do with Asians. I'll have to get it back. It'll come to me in a second. Somebody's trying to trademark Trump too small, and they got rejected on the basis that it pertains to it identifies a living person, and as such, the only person who can allow it is the living person or trademark it themselves. They're arguing that this then constitutes something of viewpoint discrimination might not be the right word, but that it allows Trump to only authorize use that he approves of. So you're only going to get good use of his name in a trademark. And I think that's, well, you'll explain that, you'll flesh out the legalities of it. I'm looking to the chat to see if they remember what the other one was. But the question I had was, why even, I'm not sure that I would have ever recognized that as being necessarily a direct reference to Trump, if they're going to use it in conjunction with an image. But Trump has a word, and it is almost an irony to saying Trump too small. It's to say almost that with which you're trying to trump someone is too small to trump them. So I might not have, in the ordinary run of things, necessarily made that definitive connection. But what are the rules, Robert, in terms of trademarking something that makes a direct reference to a living person? I guess it has to be very distinct. Trump is distinct enough. Someone said David wouldn't work or Viva wouldn't work. It has to be distinct to the person living. But what's the law on that?
Well, yeah, that's part of it is whether it's a sufficiently distinct and unique mark that is subject to trademark protection. Then you have state law, in which you have a right of both privacy and publicity. The right of your right of publicity controls the right to use your name for your own purpose. This is part of the issue in the Owen Shroyer civil case that we have for him about the person imitating him on Twitter, is that he's depriving Owen of his right of publicity. Now, this guy's starting to go a little nuts because he found out we obtained the process from Twitter to require Twitter to disclose his identity. And now he's going to be sued. So he's randomly emailing various people saying, threatening whatever. He's clearly not the brightest bulb on the block. Thinks somehow he can magically take the case to Chicago. It will stay in the Western District of Texas, where Owen Shroyer resides, and where his right to publicity was violated. But there's an example of it. Now, Twitter, by the way, and a little side note, if Elon Musk wants Twitter to become a payment processor and a bank, make sure your people at least fixed so that paying subscribers don't have their accounts hacked and never get fixed. George Gammon had his account hacked 2 months ago. Mark Moss had his account hacked. They are paying subscribers to Twitter and Elon Musk. Twitter and Elon Musk keep giving him a robot runaround. They say, well, please fix this. And they're saying, no, this can't be fixed. And guess what they answer with? Please fix this. And they're like, no, that part can't be fixed. Please fix this. I mean, it's a nightmare. Who on God's green earth, Elon, is going to use Twitter as a payment processor or a bank when it's so easy to hack paying accounts as it speaks and you can't fix it? So you should fix George Gammon's account, fix the Mark Moss's
Damn it.
account, and fix Owen Shroyer's account so that the fake guy isn't pretending to be Owen Shroyer. But the right of publicity has some restraint on state common law recognition of trademark. Then you have federal trademark. The Federal Lanham Act, the federal trademark law, basically just gives you additional remedies. So it allows you to establish a rebuttable presumption in certain cases, an incontestable identification or ownership of a trademark in certain cases, certain things like that. You don't have to have registered it to have a trademark. You just have added benefits if you do. However, our law has always, consistent with the right to privacy and right to publicity being owned by the living person. Federal trademark law for more than a century has stated you can't trademark a living person's name without their consent, or a president without their widow's consent or their consent, even if the president is dead. So, and it includes you can't do their name, their portrait, their signature, any of those three. Because Trump's name was in on this, there was challenged as whether or not it was subject to being copyrighted in the first place, given Trump hadn't consented to the use of it. And trademark is really all about use and source. So there's some question as to whether this is a fair application of the statute. It's not like anybody sees Trump too small and thinks that's Trump's authorization or source. So there's an argument that it's outside the intended purpose of the trademark laws. But putting that aside, their argument was, I have a First Amendment right to make money off of Trump's name. And that's the problem, of course, with their claim. They got Deepak and that crew up there arguing this is a First Amendment issue. Problem is, it's not really. He can say Trump too small all he wants. He's not allowed to make money off of Trump too small by claiming a copyright. And there is no First Amendment right to a copyright. There's a First Amendment right to speech. So I think the decision the Supreme Court should make is a decision they've been sitting on and not making now for the better part of a century, which is that whether or not you get a trademark protection on a viewpoint neutral law, right? As you're mentioning, some of those past cases were not viewpoint neutral as to what was going on, and that's a different dynamic. But as to the law itself, as to the preserving a right of privacy or publicity in a living individual and not extending monetary benefits to someone trying to usurp that right, I don't see that as a speech issue. That's a monetary financial government benefits issue.
The idea, I was going to say, this is the question. He can make money off it, but it can't be exclusive. Someone in the chat asked, well, then how
correct. You're right. Exactly.
How can we can sell merch with Trump's face on it? It's a public domain picture.
Right.
And it's not
but if
exclusive.
Someone else copies it, we can't sue them for it because we don't have any copyright in it.
So it's the difference between exercising the monopolies provided by law versus competing with everybody and just not owning any of those, not claiming any of those rights. Do you think they're going to uphold the dismissal? And by the way, it was called the Slants. That was the Asian one where their band was called the Slants, and it was rejected on the basis of obscenity. So it's kind of a different question. Do you think the refusal to grant the trademark is going to stand?
Yes, I think they're going to say that except when they're actually deliberately viewpoint-based discrimination. They're saying, this particular Redskins, we're not going to allow you to do for political reasons. That's a different animal. But we're recognizing the right to privacy or publicity in an individual and their right to monetize that is not a speech issue, in my opinion. It's no restriction on the person's speech at all. It's just a restriction on their ability to monopolize monetary benefit from it. And your right to an access to a state benefit has never been confused with the right to speech. And so I think that ultimately that person will lose, and they'll determine that you'll get to keep your right to your own likeness. That you can be the only person who can monopolize that. No one else can.
All right, amazing. Now we're going to go over to Rumble, leave YouTube, and we're going to talk about the other Trump case before we get into the other stuff. So everybody head over. We're going to see that number drop below 2,000, and I'll share the link. No, the number's supposed to go down, not up, people. Come on over to Rumble. The link is there. It's in the pinned comment. If I didn't forget to do that, which I did, so link to Rumble here, and I'll pin it one more time so that everybody sees it. Oh, no. Okay, it's already pinned. All right, let's do it. And getting out. And 3, 2, 1. Booyah.